So yesterday we started the closure, and I'll repeat some things which I did yesterday so that it is clear to you. The concept is clear, then we'll see some examples. This is my global space. I will represent it with the G. And here I have the variable A in the global space. There are many variables lying in the global space, but right now I will concentrate only on the few items. I have variable A. Then I have another function f inside the global space, and we have the variable b inside the function f, and then I have another variable n inside f, and I have the variable c inside that n. Now tell me, I know it's a repetition, I'm asking again and again this thing, but I wanted to be sure. Tell me whether n can access c, yes or no. Tell me whether n can access c. Now since c is inside n, so n can access c. Because c is created in n function, so basically c is the part of n function. That means if I write console.log of c in the function n, I can see the variable c, what is the value in it. So n can access c. Can n access b? Ali is saying yes, Sonu is saying no, Ola is saying no, Niyar is saying no. Yes, since b is in the function f and it is parent of n, so n can access b also. So if I write something console.log of b inside n, I can access it, I can see it. Those who said yes, I don't know why they have said yes. Those who have said no, I don't know why they have said no, because n can access c, n can access b, whether n can access a or no. Yes, n can access a because a is the global space. It can go down into the f and it can also go down into the n. So n can access all the three variables. Okay. Now another question is whether f can access c. No. Ali is saying no. Any other answer? No. F cannot access c because f is a parent and c is inside the n child, so f will not be able to access c. Whether f can access b? When I say console.log of b inside f, is it possible? Yes, it is possible because b is created inside the f, so I can access it. Whether f can access a? Yes, f can access a because a is in the global space. A can go down to f and a can go down to n also. Now another question. Whether global space can access b? Ali is saying no. Sonu is saying yes. Anshi is saying no. This global space cannot access b because b is inside the function f and it is local to f. It is private variable of the f, and so global space cannot access b. Whether this global space can access C. No. Anand is saying no. Nyar is saying no, no, no. Gotami is saying no. Okay, yes. So global space cannot access C because C is inside the function N. So it is very private to function N, and so global space cannot access function C. Oh, variable C. Sorry. Let me clear this. And now let's talk about the closure again. This is the global space. This is the function f, and this is the variable a here. This is the variable b, and we have the function n here, and there is variable c. I will ask one question again. Whether n can access b? I want correct answer from everyone. N can access b, correct, because b is created inside the function f, and f is the parent of n. Whatever is in parent, child can access it. All the properties, all the methods of a parent, child can access it. In real life also, if parent has milk, child can have milk from the parent, right? So this child can access b. Okay. So if I write down the console.log of b in the n, I can access it. I can see what is value of b. Okay. So somehow, if I move this function n, after creating here, I will move this function n to the global space. So n is moved here, and it has C variable, and it is deleted from here, for example. It's not here now because it is moved here. Though it was created here, but now it is moved to the global space. So assume this function is gone. So since this function is gone, n is moved to the outside of this function. Now it is in the global space. Now, since n was created inside the function f, so n can access all the variables of function f. N can access variable b also, even though it is moved from function f to the global space. So even though n is not here in the function f now, is outside in the global space, then also n can access b. N can access b, and n can update the value of b also. And this procedure is called closure, where function is moved from a function to global space, and so that this function can access all the variables of parent function. This is called closure. This procedure is called closure. And why n can access b even after it is moved to the global space? Because lexically n was created inside the function f, and since the lexical position of n is inside f, so n can access all the variables of function f. Even though it is moved outside the function f, then also it can access all the variables of function f. Because lexically means where it was created originally. Originally it was created in the function f. So n can access all the variables of function f even though it is moved outside into the global space. This is called closure. Is that clear? Theoretically. Theoretically it's clear. We will see practical example. Now, if you have any questions regarding this theoretical explanation, you can ask me now. I will give explanation now. Okay, we will come back to this image again after I will show you few examples. Okay, so that you can see what is happening. Okay, now let's see few examples. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, let's create a new tab. So now I will create few few examples, so it will be easy for you to understand it. So anything if I write here, it is a global space. Okay, so this is global space. So if I create a variable, it is in the global space, because anything if I write here, it is in the global space. This A represent the A in the global space. Now let's create a function f in the global space, and this function has one variable called as var b equal to 2. Okay, so can I access this b outside this function f? Can I access it in the global space? No, because this variable is created inside the f, that is local to this function f. So this variable b is local to the function f. If I put b, it will give me error, because in the global space b is not available. B is available only inside this function. So let me create this function again. Whether I can access a inside this function f? Yes, a is a. I will say a. Since a is defined in the global space, I can use it inside the function, but b cannot be accessed outside. If I do console.log of b, it will give me error, because b is created inside the function. It cannot be accessed outside the function. Whether I can create access b inside the function? Yes or no? Yes. B is created inside the function, so I can access it inside the function. Now we have one variable outside, we have one variable inside the function f. Let's create another function here, function n, for example. Okay, so I created function n here. Now this function has variable c inside it. So now whether I can access a inside this function? Yes. Whether I can access b inside this function? Yes. So this function is called n, and I want to, this is created inside this function. So that means this function n can access variable b, because b is the is created in the parent function f. So this n function can access b. I will remove b from here. I will remove a from here for now. Okay, so let me write down in the n function. I will say b is here. I can also say c is c. C is created here. Okay, so c is c and b is here. I am not concerned with a right now. Let's talk about this one. Now I want to move this function to the global space. So how will I move this function to the global space? By saying return statement. So when I say return of the function, that means whenever we run the function f, it returns this function which is returned to the global space. So anything which I return from this function f will be available in the global space. Okay, so when I say return n, that means this n is returned to the global space. This function is returned to where? Is returned to the global space. Okay, so what happened? N is created inside the function f, but it is returned to the global space by saying the return statement. And I will press enter here. Okay, now in the global space I will create another variable n. Don't confuse this n with this n. Okay, so I'm just giving the name here, and this I'm giving name here because in the diagram it was n, so I just want to give the n. Here I can create this function without n also. Just for your understanding, I am saying this is n function. So I created variable n and I will call the function f. When I call this function f, this line will be executed and this function will be returned. This function will be returned. So if I say enter, now when I do n, what do you think? I will get this code block of this function or it will print this console.log. I'm just saying n without invoking it. Without invoking it, I'm just saying n, whether it will show me this code block of this function or it will run, execute it. Print block. Anand is saying print block. Since we are not invoking it, it will show me this code block, this one. Let me press enter. So you will see this is the code block of this part because it is returned. So this n is nothing but this function. Now if I run n, now when I run this function f, this b variable is created and this function is returned. And that's all. It's gone. This function is gone. So when I return something, this function is gone. Okay, all the code is done. But when I run this n, when I invoke this n, it will console.log b is 2 and it is console.log c, which is 3. C is created inside this function, so I can understand that C is 3, it's able to display the 3. But B is created inside the function f, and because n is created lexically inside the function f, n can access the value b, even if n is returned to the global space. So n is now in the global space. How I can say? Because n is here in the global space, not in any function. N is moved to the global space, but it can access the value of b, which is created inside this function f. So that is the closure. Now let me do console of this n. So to do the console.f, I will not use console.log, but I will use console.dir of n. When I do console.dir of n, I can see some more properties of this function, and one of the properties is the scope. And in the scope, one of the property you will see the closure, and in the closure you will see the b equal to 2. So since n is moved from this to outside world, that is in the global space, but what is the closure property? Closure property is this variable b, because this is the variable which I can access from this function even though it is moved to the global space. So in this closure part, I can see b equal to 2, which is this, nothing but this statement. So I will know when I run the n that which closure variable is there and what is the value of that variable. So whenever I run the n, I can see the closure is this variable b, and it has a value of 2. Do not worry of these two things, which is not related to closure. I don't want to talk about these two, and these are useless in this current discussion. We only want to concentrate on the closure. So let's go to the diagram again and compare this with this. So let me create the diagram again. Okay, let me create here. Okay, so we have the global space. I'm doing it again, and I will compare it with this example. So this is the global space. We have variable a equal to 1. So I will say a equal to 1. Then we have the function f. This is the function f. It has the b value equal to 2. Then we have another function n inside this. Inside f, I have another function n, and it has the value of c equal to 3. Now I moved this n to the global space. How I moved? By saying the return statement. And once I say return statement, and when I invoke this function f, it is assigned to the variable, that is, I'm moving n to the outside global space. And when I run this n, I can access the value b, and I can also access the value c. If I would have put a, I could have accessed a also. So that means I can access b, which is inside the function f, but I can access in the another function n, which is in the global space. So I moved this function n to the global space. Now here I can access b, I can access c, I can access a also. Why I can access b? Because lexically n was created inside the function f. So all the variables created function f are available inside the function n. And global variable is already available everywhere, so we don't care about it in this example. Okay, so this is the one example of the closure. Now I want you to write down this example, because all the examples I want you to write down along with me, and once you are done, just let me know. So you have to write down as I am writing it here, and you have to write down same way. So you write down in your console.log or in your any text file. I will say var a equal to 1. Then I will paste shift enter so that I can be in the next line. I will create another function f. I will press shift enter so I am in the same space. Here I will create another variable b equal to 1. So there will be 5-6 examples of the closure. So you have to do it along with me so that you are familiar with what we are doing. Now here I will return a function. It's not needed, I can give the name, but it's okay. If you give name or no, it's okay. I return a function, and in the return I will just say console.log b is b. And here I can create another variable var c equal to 3. Make this b equal to 2 so that we all have different variables. Okay, so I have console.log of b is b. Though I can write c and a also, but they are immaterial. C and a are immaterial because we are concerned with the b, which is created in the f function and which can be accessed even if I return this function to the global space. Now what I will do, I will create a variable n and I will invoke the function f. Once I have invoked the function f, this n will be nothing but this function and this function. So you can do console.dir of n is, or just say n. So you can see what is inside n, and then you can invoke the n. Once I invoke the n, it will run this line of the code and it will display b equal to 2. That means even though this function is moved to the global space, that is this space, then also it can access b, which was not possible if we would have not returned this function. So because of the closure, I can access this variable b. and I will run it. So you will see B is 2, and I can see in the scope there is a closure where B equal to 2. So just write down these lines of the code and let me know once it is done. Okay, so this is the one example of the closure. So let's drill it again a little bit. So you will see, let me put it again. You will see I have in the closure what things to be done. So if you have to do some closure example, based on this example, what things are important for the closure? You will see I have one function f. I have one function f. This is one thing I put in this closure. I created one variable inside this function. So I have one second. I have one variable. It may be multiple variable, but right now in this example, I have one variable at least in function f, which is this one b. And another thing is I am returning a function. So we have to return a function. Anyhow, we have to return one function. So I am returning function. This function will be returned to the global space. Where it will be returned to the global space. And once it is returned to the global space, this function will be assigned to some variable, whatever variable you want to see. It will be assigned to a variable in global space, directly or indirectly. There is indirect method also. I will show you that, but don't worry about the indirect one. It will be assigned to a variable in the global space, that is this one. And when I invoke this, n function, I can access the variable b, which was created inside the function f. So what things you have to remember, that this variable can be accessed here in this function even though it is returned to the global space. Okay, so that is the thing you have to remember. Okay, so this is the one example. I have shown you one example you have written in your code. Let's do the second example and see how the things go. So let me do second example. Okay, let's do the second example. I am not concerned with the global variable var a equal to 1 something. I am not concerned with this because I told you for closures I am not concerned with the global variable. Let's talk about the direct important part. So I will create one function f and I will pass some parameter inside it. For example, a, just or I will just say argument arg. Just I'm saying arg. This is a variable, or I can say param. Param is the best word. So I created a function and it has a parameter passed into it. Now I create one function. Okay, function, I will give the name n. I create one function n and I will return the param here. I am returning the param here. So do you think this function can access param? Yes or no? Do you think this function can access this param? This param is nothing but if I write something like this, var param equal to 1, it is same way. I am passing it, or if I write it, it is one and the same thing. I can create here or I can pass it from here. It is one and the same thing. So it is as if B in the previous example. But only difference is I am passing here, but practically it does not have any difference. So I can access this param inside this function n, because n is the child of f, so I can access this param inside the n. Now what I will do, I will say param plus plus, that is whatever value I passed here, I will add 1 to it. Let's say if I have passed 1, I am increasing it to 1, that is it will become 2. Then I will returning a function. Remember in the closure we always have to return the function. See, returning the function. I am returning this function n. I am not returning this invoke. I am just returning the function n. This is this function. That is this code block. Okay, so this I created this function. I'll press enter. Now in the global space I will create a variable. Maybe I can name it x here, and I will call the function f with the value of 1, 2, 3. Okay, I can name anything, x, m, n, anything. So when I invoke this function, these lines of the code will run and ultimately a function is returned. N is nothing but this function. A function is returned. Always remember in the closure we have to return the function. So when I run this, n will be returned, this function will be returned, and it will be assigned to another variable m here. Now tell me, if I run the m or if I invoke the m, what will be the value which will output here? Anand is saying 1, 2, 4. Sonu Singh is saying 1, 2, 4. Ola is saying 1, 2, 4. Okay. So let me run it and see what's happening. If I run m, so answer is coming 1, 2, 4. So what is happening here? I am returning the n here, and this is nothing but this function, and this return the param. So when I invoke the m, that is I am invoking this part. When I invoke the m, it will check what is the value of param, latest value of the param. Since it is the closure, it can access the variable param. Now what happened when I invoke m, that is this line of the code, it has to return the param. It will not return 1, 2, 3 which was passed initially. It will return the latest value of the param. So whatever is updated value of the param, it will return that value. Because of this line, whatever I passed, it becomes one more, 1, 2, 4. So when I invoke these lines of the code, it will take the latest value of the param and it will return here, that will be 1, 2, 4. So this is also another way of doing the closure. Why it is closure? Because we are returning and we are accessing one parameter from the parent function, so it becomes the closure. Whenever you return a function and it can access any parameter inside the function, that behavior is called the closure. Let's see what happens when I do console.log console.dir of m, this m. When I do console.dir of m, I will get a function, and there is a scope part here, and scope has a closure, and closure will be the param, because this param was the variable which was in the parent function and which can be accessed in the closure. That is the reason in the closure I can see param is 124. So whatever the latest value of param will be here, you can see when you run this function, you will see that value. Okay, this is the second example. I will ask you now in 1 minute you write this another example, just example 2 of closure. We'll do lot of problems similar this. Always these things will be common in all the closure example. We will go little complicated stuff in a bit, but let's do simple first one. So just do it and let me know once you're done. Okay, let's do another problem, another example of, I am doing very simple code of the closure so you can understand it better way, but then I will make it complicated, which are really asked in the interview, that I will show few examples of that also. Okay, let me clear this. Let's create another example. I will create a function vehicle, and it takes the horsepower. I can also write this horsepower here, which was B in our example, equal to 1 for example, but I am passing it from outside world. So I'm not creating here. So in the closure, we should have one variable in the parent function, which is this one. If we don't have variable in the parent function, then even though closures will work, but it will lose its power, because the power of closure is that it is able to access the variable in the parent function. So if I don't pass any variable, or if I don't have any variable, then the purpose of closure is not solved. Purpose of closure is that parent should have some variable which I can access in the child. So if I don't have this variable and I am returning some function here, then the closure has no meaning, because the closure only will has its power when it can access the variable from the parent function. So I need to pass some variable, or I need to create some variable here, like here, whatever is preferred. Then what I'm doing, I'm returning a function, and here I'm passing model name. Always remember, closure should have the return function, which will return to the global space. If we don't return to the global space, then again, what is the meaning of the closure? Closure will only work that we are moving one function from another function into the global space. So we need some return statement. Always return of the function should be there. Okay, and here I will say console.log horsepower is horsepower. This horsepower is coming from the parent, and model name is model name, and this model name is coming from this parameter. Since it is a closure, it can access the variable from the parent, that is horsepower, even if it is moved to the global space. So when I say return, that means we are moving this to the global space, and then also it is able to access the horsepower, which is in the local to this variable, this function, which is local to this function. Let me press enter, and I will create a variable n equal to vehicle, and I will pass some horsepower, for example 800. Okay. Now if I do console.dir of n, this n is nothing but this function. So it should have the closure. What will be the closure function of closure variable? When I run this dir, what will be the closure variable you will see? When I run the console.dir of n, what will you see in the closure variable? Closure variable is this, not this. This is the local variable of this function. Closure variable is horsepower. Let me see. So we are seeing closure as a horsepower of 800. Okay. So let's run n now. When I run the n, it's saying horsepower of 800. And the model name is undefined. Why it's undefined? Because I have to pass the model name here. So let me pass again. I will call the n function, and I will pass some model Ford. So because this function expects model name to be passed, otherwise it is undefined. So I am passing n Ford, saying horsepower is 800, model name is Ford. Okay, so write down this line of the code and these two lines of the code. This is example 3. We will do a lot of examples so that the concept of closure is in your mind. Okay, let's do. Many people have done it, so I will delete it. Let's take example 4th. All are same. All have similar concept. Only the name is different. Otherwise, everything is same. Let's create another function called as calculator, and I pass number 1 here. Okay. Inside that, since it is a closure, I need to return some function. I am returning the function, and this function will take another number, number 2. So this is number 1, this is number 2. And here I will return number 1 plus number 2. Okay, so this function is the closure because it is created inside the calculator and it is returned to the global space. And what is the variable in the closure? Number 1 or number 2? What is the variable in the closure? Number 1. Correct. Number 1 is the variable in the closure. Number 2 is the local variable to this function. Okay, so let's create this function. Let me create var n equal to calculator, and I pass some number, for example 3. And if I do console.dir of n, I will see the closure is number 1, which is 3. Now I will invoke this function n with some another variable. So it is giving me the 7. So this 4 is the local variable, this one, number 2. And since it can access the number 1 which was created here, so it adds 3 plus 4, that is 7. Just do this one. So every closure example which I am doing now is same. Only the difference is the naming. I'm doing again and again with different naming convention so that you should understand that what things are required in the closure. Okay, let's do one similar example, then we'll move to different type of example. This is the last of the same type. I will say function URL generator and I pass the domain. Okay, and inside this I will return another function. So you will know that closure should always return a function. I can give the name also, or I cannot give the name. It's up to me. Let's see, I give the name, or I will give some different name, print URL. It's up to me what if I give. This is not used. This name will not be used. If I give it or if I don't give it, it doesn't matter. So I will give some name. I am passing some name and it will return. It will do the console.log of HTTPS and I will say domain. I will say name first and then I will say domain. So I am console.log of this name and then domain. Okay, so this function is returned. This is the closure function domain, and so I will enter it. Now I will create var n equal to URL generator and I will pass the domain as .com. So the domain will become .com. Now if I invoke n with name of Google, so this, when I invoke n, I am invoking this part. Okay, I am invoking this function and I am passing the name Google. So it will go HTTPS, name is the google.com. So it's saying HTTPS google.com. So name is coming from here and .com is coming from the closure variable domain. Okay, this is another example, just do it. So the purpose of closure is that we should return that function to the global space. Okay, so we should return the function to the global space. Let's see if we do this in another way. I will create one variable n equal to just variable n in the global space. So I'm creating the variable n in the global space. This is in the global space. Now I will create a function f. Here I will say var b equal to 1. I will not be able to access this b outside this function 1 because b is local to this function f. Now what I will do, I will make n equal to of another function. This n variable is nothing but created in the global space. So if I update the value of n inside the function this function, it will actually update the global variable. So the value will be updated in the global n. So even if I don't return it now, I am creating this function in the global space, but I am creating this inside this function. So here if I say console.log b is b, so what's happening? Previously you saw I am returning to the global space. Here I am not putting any return statement. But with this statement, it is clear that I am creating this function in the global space because this variable n is defined in the global space. So if I update the value of n, even in function, it will actually update the global space. So if I press enter and if I run f, once I run f, this n is created, and then if I run n, it is saying b is 1. I have to run the f function because otherwise n will not get this value. So I run the function f so that all lines should be run and the n should have the value of this function. After I run the f, I will run n. Since n is in the global space, it has the value of this function. It is running this function and it is getting the value of b here. So though n is in the global space, it can access the value of b in the global space. So this is the another way of doing the global closure. Though in practically we will be doing the previous one in all the cases, but this is only to make you understand that we are moving this function to the global space. That is the purpose of the closure, that anything we create the function inside another function, but we have to move this function to the global space. So though it is created here inside this function, but since it is assigned to n, that is, it is assigned in the global space, and we need this function in the global space. So do this one again. This is another way of doing the closure, but we will be doing like previous one in all our practical examples. So just do it for your understanding purpose. Don't remember this type because we will be not doing this type in our example. Only you have to do this to understand that n is in the global, we have to put this function in the global space. That is the purpose of this exercise. Okay, so this is another example. Let's do one more example, last one for today, and then we will do few more examples tomorrow. So this is the last example of today about closures. Last example for today. I will create a function f. This is little tricky. I will create a function f. Here I have array. Okay, I create empty array now. I create empty array inside this function. Now I will say for loop var I equal to 0, I is less than 3, I plus plus. So this is the for loop, and if I will put array of I equal to, so I'm putting all the values in the array. So I will say array of 0 equal to 0, that is value is I. Okay. So array of I is I, and I will return array. Okay, so this is my function. I'm not returning a function here, you will see, but I will return it again. I will modify this function to return the function in few minutes. So this is the function, but I am returning some value, not really the function. So this is not the closure because we are not returning the function to the global space. Now I create a variable n equal to f, and if once I say n of f, I will get array. So what will be the value of n of 0? So if I say n of 0, what will be the value? 0, because 0 is 0. If I say n of 1, I will get 1, right? And if I say, because this array is transferred to n, now I can see n of 0 is 0, n of 1 is 1, n of 2, n of 2 is 2. Okay, so this is the normal example of for loop. Let's modify it to make it closer. Okay, instead of passing I here, I will assign it a function. What I am doing? I am assigning a function. So basically, when I return the array, we are returning the functions, all the functions with the 0 key, 1 key, 2 key. So though we are not returning one function here, but we are returning the multiple functions. That is, with 0 also we have one function, with 1 also we have one function, with 2 also we have one function. So we are returning function in the global space. And in the function, I am saying return I. So what I am saying? Return I. So what we are doing? We are returning the function into the global space, though in the form of the array. Now I'll press enter. Now if I create var n equal to f, what you will think when I say n of 0? What will be the answer? So it's a returning I means nothing but 0. First time, second time it is 1, third time it is 2. So I'm returning this function, right? This function is assigned to array. So if I have n, and if I say n of 0, what will be the value displayed? I'm not saying to do, done. What is done? Just tell me. Okay. So Ola is saying 0, Anand is saying 0, because if I'm saying n of 0, what will be the value displayed? If I say n of 1, what will be the value displayed? If I say n of 1, what will be the value displayed? 1. 1. Okay, let's see now. If I say n of 0, since it is a function, since everything is a function, so I have to invoke it to see the value. So you will see it is coming 3. Previously it was value, so I was only able to see n of 0. Now each thing is written as a function, so I have to invoke it to see the value. What will happen if I say n of 1? It is 3. What will happen if I say n of 2? It is 3. All the cases, in all the cases we have the value of 3, right? We don't see 0, 1, 2. The reason is that this function is assigned to array of 0, 1 and 2. Okay, so this is kind of closure because it can access the variable I from the function f. So this is the closure, and it can access the variable I from the function f. It can access array also, it can access I also, this function. But in this function I am returning I, so that means from where I is coming? I is coming from the parent function, this here, I is going here. So at this time we are only defining this function. Okay, when we are defining this function and putting the value I here. But when we run it, it will run this part of the code. This part of the code means it will run this I. And what is the value of I in the parent function when I run this code? What is the value of I when I run this function? That is, when I run this function, what is the value of I in the function f? It is 3. Why it is 3? Because when I run this for loop, I is going from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. It goes to the 3 and it comes out of the loop. So when I run the function, I already has got the value of 3 because of this for loop. So when I invoke this function, it is taking the variable I. And where is I located? What is the closure of the I? What is closure of this function? This closure of this function is variable I. And if I is updated in the parent, when I run this closure function, I will get the value of I, which is latest, and the latest is 3. Are you getting me? What I am trying to say? This function is the closure function because it is returned to the global space. This function is returned to the global space. So first time it will assign it to array, second time it will assign to array, third time it will assign to array, and in each case I is updated to the value of 0, 1, 2, and 3. And when I invoke this function, since this is a closure and the I is a closure variable, so it will check what is the value of I. Then he will say, oh, value of I is updated to 3. So even though when creating, I say function I return I, that is 0, 1, and 2, but when I am actually running it, I is updated already to value 3. Okay, I is updated to the value 3, and so we are getting 3. So even if I do console.log, let me explain this again. Even if I do console.log here, here also it will take the value of I, which is updated in the for loop. Okay, let me run this again. If I say n of 0 and I invoke it, so it is saying I is 3 and value of 3. Let me do it again. Okay, so you will understand it in a better way. So I have a function f. Okay, and I am running this loop. Okay, when I run this loop, first time when the loop will run, the I is 0. Second time when loop will run, I is 1. Third time when loop will run, I is 2. Fourth time, it is I is 3. When I become 3, it will say, oh, condition does not match it. It will come out of the loop. But what will be the value of I when it comes out of the loop? What will be the value of I here? What will be the value of I? It will be 3 because it has already reached to point 3 and it is 3 here. Okay. Now if I'm doing it array of I, that is 0, and I put the function. Okay, I put it as a function because I want the closure and I want to return this function to the outside world. So here I will say console.log I is I. So since this is the closure, when I run this function, you will see I to be the updated value of this parent function. What is the updated value of the parent function? 3. Previously you saw, few minutes back I did the one example where I passed the param and then I created a function n. You remember function n, and here I did return param. Few minutes back we did it. You remember? You might have written it. Check your notes. And I did then param plus plus, and then I return n, and then I passed here f of 123 var n equal to f of 123, and when I try to run the n, what was the value coming? 124. Why 124 was coming? Because param because it is returning param and param was updated here. Since param was updated to one value more, so the return was 124 and answer was coming 124. Similarly here, though I am putting each function to the array, when I invoke this function, it will go to the parent function and check what is the value of I. And what will be the value of I when I invoke this function? Because I am invoking this function outside. And I am saying n of 0 and I invoking. So when I am invoking this function will be invoked and it will see, oh, what is the value of I in the parent function? And we know that I has reached to the level of 3. So it will return 3 in each case. So it will return, okay, array, I haven't divided the array. Let me define the array again. So what's happening? When I invoke this function, it will go to this closure I. What is the closure value? It is I. And it will check what is the value of I. Value of I is 3. So in all 3 cases, I will get 3. What is missing now? Okay, return is missing, right? Return array. Okay, right. So when I run this one, I'm getting I as 3. And if I check n of 0, so you will see it is a function with the closure and closure has I of 3. Because I has reached to the point 3, and so whenever I call this function, it has the value, latest value of the I. Because we know in the closure, we get the updated value of the parent function. What updated value of the variable in the parent function? This variable is in the parent function. We will, when we run this function, we will get updated value of the I. Is that clear? Any doubt in this example? Any questions? This is little tricky. So you will say, what is the use of closure when we are getting wrong value, right? Right? Is your question this? What is use of this closure when we are getting wrong value? We are not able to show 0, 1 and 2. So this is the wrong function. This will not work in practical life. I don't want to show I3 in every case. I want to show 0, 1, 2 in the practical life. But this is not working. So closure is failing here, right? Am I right? Closure is failing here. We are not getting what we want. Is that right? Closure is failing here. Yes or no? I want answer. Yes or no? Is closure failing here? Yes. So next question which should come in your mind. So how should we print 0, 1 and 2? In this case, we are not getting 0, 1, 2. So this is the wrong case. This will break our code. When we go and we want to write the real code, this will break. Because we don't want to show 3 in every case. Since we are writing the for loop, the purpose of for loop, so we should get 0, 1 and 2. So to get the 0, 1, 2, we will do that tomorrow. This part is little difficult. Others are easy, which you understood. This part I will explain tomorrow again. And I will tell you how to resolve this part in closures. Okay, so what we have to do to modify this function so that it should work. Okay, so we will change this closure function and we will modify it to make it work. So tomorrow we will do this one. So except this example, is closure clear whatever I explained today? This part is little difficult and I have done half of it. So you may not understand clearly today what I am doing, but tomorrow I will explain this again and I will show you the real solution, how to solve this. So in interview, they will give this function and they will say, oh, we are getting 3 in every case. So how will you solve it? That is the interview question. And out of 10 interview, I got 4 of them, they have asked this question. How will you solve it? So that function should return 0, 1 and 2 properly. So we will solve this function again tomorrow and we will see how to resolve it. Don't write down this function today, maybe tomorrow you can write down, and tomorrow we will see solution also how to fix it.